See, y'all don't like it when I'm nice. Y'all only like it when I'm ignorant. So that's exactly what you get.
Welcome to Hitman Boxing. Hit that like and subscribe button. Oscar De La Hoya didn't take too kindly what Errol Spence had to say regarding promoters. As you probably know, Oscar De La Hoya has been trying to sign Errol Spence as way back as right before Miguel Cotto retired. You know, he tried to sign Spence up and have Spence fight Cotto for that belt. Spence declined, right? Now, Spence says that he doesn't need a promoter handling his career and that he'll be just fine going the route he's going right now. You know, Oscar De La Hoya didn't take too kindly to those words. Let me go ahead and read off his statement. I have a response to him and to tell him that he's wrong. I strongly believe that a fighter needs a promoter to guide your career. You can have a manager, you can have an advisor. He thinks Showtime is promoting him, and that's not the case. You need a promoter to move you along and eventually become a pay-per-view fighter, which he will never be without a promoter. My case was totally different because I already had the worldwide platform when I won the gold medal, so it was easier to promote me. But you're right, if I didn't have Aram to guide my career, who knows where I would be? Who knows where I would be if I had a manager/advisor guiding my career? See, a promoter promotes you. A promoter has a plan, a long-term plan to eventually make you a pay-per-view star. And look, there's a reason why there's one superstar in boxing, and that's Saul Canelo Alvarez. There's a reason why there's one fighter in boxing that sells pay-per-view, and that's Canelo Alvarez. Therefore, we have that vehicle. We have that platform to showcase with the pay-per-view audience. He might be a great fighter. I'm talking about my many fighters out there, but there's a reason why you're only making a couple $1 million and not making $10, $15, $20 million. Oscar De La Hoya's statement. So I can kind of believe, I can go along with what both of these guys are saying, right? But in a sense, Oscar De La Hoya is really wrong about what he's saying. And he's right and he's wrong, right? You know, a lot of these PBC fighters would be better off with promoters, right? But if we look at Oscar De La Hoya's stable, who has he made a star besides Canelo Alvarez? Lucas Matisse isn't a star. David Lemieux isn't a star. Who else? This new kid he got ain't a star. The only star that he has is Canelo Alvarez. And he had a bunch of these PBC fighters before Alvarez. He had, what? He had Deontay Wilder. He had Thurman. He had the Charlo brothers. He had Danny Jacobs. He had a bunch of fighters under Golden Boy. And he didn't make any of them stars. And he continues to not make any of his current crop of fighters stars. So he continues to hold on to that Canelo Alvarez story, right? Look at the other guys who've got promoters. Look at Top Rank. Terrence Crawford's not a star. Not a huge star. Not a pay-per-view attraction. Look at these guys. I mean, we're talking about these U.S.-based fighters, right? Lomachenko's not a huge name. He's not a pay-per-view fighter. Manny Pacquiao's barely even a pay-per-view fighter right now. But in the past, he has been a pay-per-view fighter, right? It's like there are certain fighters that can make it to that level of being a pay-per-view attraction. And typically, they string along the good fighters, right? Like Floyd, pay-per-view fighter. Pacquiao, pay-per-view fighter back in his day, right? You know, they were stringing along these good fighters, beating these fighters on pay-per-view who were good, but still couldn't be pay-per-view attraction solo. Miguel Cotto, pay-per-view attraction. Like, there's just exceptions, right? Not everyone's going to be a pay-per-view star, even if they have a promoter. We look at PBC, we look at Errol Spence. He's not a pay-per-view attraction. I'm not sure if he'll ever be a pay-per-view attraction. I know he wants to start his own promotional company. We look at Eddie Hearn. You know, his stable of fighters that he's picked up recently, they're not pay-per-view fighters. I'm talking about the U.S. fighters that he's picked up. I mean, we know Anthony Joshua is a big fighter. I'm not sure how the pay-per-view system is over in the UK. I think damn near every fight is on pay-per-view, if I'm not mistaken, right? They don't charge as much as they charge over here in the U.S. because we're spending like, what, $70, bucks for HD stream. So again, these fighters are not pay-per-view fighters, but I do think that some of these guys could stand to get a promoter in their corner, right? Because, let's face it, a lot of the PBC fighters, they don't do television appearances. They don't go into these popular shows. Like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence, that was a good move having them go to the Breakfast Club. And so I assume that they're going to continue to do things like that. You know what I'm saying? But you won't see a Vasil Lomachenko on the Breakfast Club. It's not going to translate. Deontay Wilder, another guy who should be a pay-per-view attraction. I don't think he has a promoter. He might be promoted by Lou DiBella. But Lou DiBella don't do a great job in promoting his fighters. You have to do more than just promote your fighters when they have a fight. Promote them when they don't have a fight. Showtime has been promoting Errol Spence. They've been promoting Mikey Garcia. They've been promoting fighters. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, they only do it when they have a fight. And this really hurts the fighters. Now, Oscar De La Hoya is full of shit. And you was on camera taking a spoon up your ass. That's super pause-worthy. If I was a fighter, I would never sign with Oscar De La Hoya. So this is why he's frustrated, because he can't get any of these hot fighters. He's not going to get any of these hot fighters, man. You gotta have to have no self-respect to sign with Oscar De La Hoya at this moment. If you already signed with him right now and you got a couple fight deal, I understand. But to re-sign with the guy, beyond my belief, man. Because he's got some weird shit going on. And I wouldn't want to be around that shit. I'd rather not have a promoter than have Oscar De La Hoya promote me. Personally. But again, I can see both sides of the equation. I can see valid points from both sides, but just coming from the wrong guy, coming from a weirdo and Oscar De La Hoya, a weird guy. Canelo's making 15, 20 million dollars a fight. He's an exception, man. He broke through. He probably the only pay-per-view attraction in North America, right? I can't think of anyone else who can generate those types of numbers, make 10, 15, 20 million dollars a fight. Like, there's no one else in North America that does that. On the flip side of the coin, over on the other side, AJ's probably making around that much a fight. But their boxing scene is structured a little bit different than ours, right? So, Oscar De La Hoya, man, he's just salty he couldn't sign Spence. Really salty that he can't sign any of these PBC fighters, right? But, Al Heyman, he advises these guys. I don't know what you want, man. There's not going to be a pay-per-view attraction for some time, man. I don't see anybody, like, nobody really stands out to me that could be a pay-per-view attraction. There are a lot of fighters that do stand out. I apologize. But I just don't see how they can make that next step. I don't see how they can make it to that next level. Is it because they don't have a promoter? Maybe, but Oscar De La Hoya hasn't made any stars in the last 5 years. Any pay-per-view stars. Neither has Bob Arum. So that's why the point is kind of invalid. Because these guys aren't making stars. Eddie Hearn hasn't made any stars over here either. Danny Jacobs ain't on pay-per-view. I don't know. It sucks, but these guys aren't going to be making that kind of money. Maybe somebody will break the mold. Maybe Crawford, maybe Spence. Maybe these guys will break the mold and become pay-per-view fighters. We are all diehard boxing fans, right? So we like the good matchups and we get hyped for these types of fights. We get hyped for like a Spence versus Crawford. But you ask somebody on the street who the hell either one of those guys are, and they don't know who they are. They're not looking to buy those fights. They know Canelo. But that's about it, man. Hitman Boxing, let me know what you guys think about Oscar De La Hoya's comments. I think he's full of shit. But at the same time, he was kind of touching on something that, I don't know, man. It's just, Motherfuckers ain't pay-per-view attractions in 2018. So, and you know what? One last thing I want to say. Keith Thurman is not Floyd Mayweather. Keith Thurman is not Floyd Mayweather. He will never be Floyd Mayweather. He will never be a fighter that makes more than $3 million a fight. And when he comes back, he gonna get his ass beat. Hitman Boxing, drop a comment, like the video, subscribe. I'm out.
I woke up in a strange place, right next to a strange face, head banging like a drum. I do not know what I've done. I see a couple empty bottles, thinking it's today but it's tomorrow. A new day, same shit, and I think I gotta have